Earl was disgusted with himself for allowing sentiment to cloud his judgment. He had gotten rusty. He had suspected Sophia of being the double agent almost from the start. Sir Winthrop had suspected her too. It was why he specifically put Earl on the assignment. He had wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, and now he had gotten hurt in the bargain. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel where the story is getting more exciting. Comment where you are watching from and what time it is there. I'd love to hear from you. Now let's get back to the story. Earl couldn't believe his luck. Apart from keeping an eye on Sophia, he now had to keep his wife from harm. He worried to no end about the drive from the airport and what Sophia might do. He had awakened that first morning in the house with a fever, which probably meant that an infection had set in. He couldn't accompany Sophia to meet Emma, and she had been quick to assure him that he needn't worry, that she would meet her for him. He hadn't spoken with Sir Winthrop since yesterday, and the doctor who discharged him had written him prescriptions for both pain and antibiotics. Sophia had volunteered to pick them up along with Emma. His shoulder throbbed, and he hated being helpless. A fever complicated things, and Sophia now had the upper hand. It was indeed a fine line he walked. Earl looked around the room Sophia assigned him. It was comfortable as rooms go, with a four-poster bed, a bedside table, and a chest of drawers. Sir Winthrop had gotten his belongings from the hotel for him, holding on to his other equipment for safekeeping. The surrounding area suggested that they were on a large estate with an orchard as far as the eye could see, and he couldn't tell what kind of trees they were. The door to his room was locked on the outside. Sophia explained that she hadn't announced his presence yet and didn't want him wandering in a stupor in his condition and possibly startling someone. It was fuzzy how he got there, and Sophia was ready with an explanation for that too. She said that he had been heavily sedated after his surgery. The bullet had to be removed. The other thing he realized when he awoke was that the other people in the house weren't British. He was sure they spoke German, a language Sophia was fluent in, and he wasn't. It was a disadvantage he didn't like. Upon questioning her of their location, she told him that they were in Chelmsford. Earl thought hard to get a fix on their location and figured that if they were truly in Chelmsford, that they were northwest of London, a little over an hour's drive, no big deal. Emma gritted her teeth as she bent to rub her knee. She bumped it against the armrest of a seat as she made her way to the bathroom. It had been a long flight, and she wanted to freshen up before they landed. The captain announced their arrival, and she hurried. The Sky Marshal straightened up when Emma regained her seat and smiled at her. He told her that his part was done once they landed. He wished her luck after they cleared customs. A woman holding a sign with her name on it stood among the throng of people waiting to greet loved ones. Emma acknowledged her with a smile. The woman introduced herself as Agent Thorne. That name was familiar, and Emma began to feel tense. This was the woman her husband dated for 3 years. "Hello," Emma replied. The woman ignored the hand Emma put out to her and made noises about getting her luggage. Emma followed her to the luggage bay and quickly retrieved her one suitcase. Agent Thorne led the way out of the terminal. Emma's first glimpse of Greater London was a disappointment. She had arrived in early evening. Emma took a moment to examine the woman. She wore a professional pantsuit. Emma didn't think she was gorgeous as Earl described her. She was just pretty. Agent Thorne led her to a waiting car. She helped Emma store her case in the trunk and told her to get in the back seat. Sophia got in the passenger seat and looked at the driver. The atmosphere in the car was strained. It was evident that Sophia wasn't too thrilled with her. She'd gotten that vibe instantly. Her smile was phony. As soon as Sophia buckled her seatbelt, the car moved into traffic. "Excuse me, Agent Thorne. Could you tell me how long is the ride to where Earl is?" "Mrs. Solano, I'm not quite sure exactly. Traffic, as you can see, is heavy, but I estimate that it could take us between an hour to 2 hours," she answered. The expression on her face didn't invite any more conversation, but Emma needed information. "Can you tell me what his condition is? Sir Winthrop wasn't very forthcoming." "Your husband is tougher than you think. He is doing fine. He sustained a bullet to the shoulder and bruised ribs, but he'll bounce back." Emma nodded as her mind took in what the woman said about Earl's injuries. He was shot in the shoulder and had bruised ribs. The bruised ribs she could deal with. She'd come across that before. The gunshot was something altogether different. Surely Earl's superiors wouldn't expect him to continue with his duties, would they? Emma didn't know what protocols are in place. but she was positive that if one got hurt in the line of duty, they got time off or were replaced. She would insist that he be replaced. Just wait until she saw that Sir Winthrop, she thought. Emma's ears perked up when the driver said something. He wasn't speaking English. Emma looked out the window at the passing scenery. It was getting dark and she could listen. Something didn't feel right. She felt a growing dread in her stomach. As his fear or, she heard the driver say. Emma kept her eyes on the passing scenery as she listened more closely. Sophia must have asked for the time. The driver told her that it was 4 o'clock. They were discussing the best route to take. An der Kreuzung biegen Sie ab. The tires screeched as the driver slowed to steer into a turn. Emma slammed against the door and grabbed her seatbelt. She felt a certain measure of comfort. She understood what they were saying. Agent Thorne told the driver to take that turn at the intersection. Thank goodness she had opted to take German in college. Her guidance counselor had suggested that it would be better than the usual Spanish or French. 4 semesters of it made her quite comfortable with the language. Agent Thorne turned to her with an apologetic smile. Sorry about that. My friend isn't very familiar with the countryside, and he doesn't speak English. Oh, don't worry about me, Emma assured the woman as she adjusted her seatbelt. Bring ihn zu mir. Wir treffen uns Pater in der Stadt, Agent Thorne said in a perfectly calm voice. Emma held her breath and let it out slowly. She couldn't believe her ears. Agent Thorne just said that she would eliminate both Earl and her and meet him in town later. What on earth was going on? Did her husband know what was going to happen? And what were they going to do about it? Wow, are you running plans A, B, or C in your head right now? Agent Thorne means to do away with both Emma and Earl. Comment with a fire emoji if you are pumped. They stopped talking and Emma continued to pretend she hadn't understood what they said. They drove further into the unknown and Emma struggled to remain calm. After another mile or so, they slowed down and pulled into a long, winding driveway and came to stop in front of a large estate, the kind one sees in the pages of magazines. Emma quickly got out and went to stand by the trunk. The driver popped it open and reached for her case. The scent of fruit was overwhelming, but she couldn't identify which. She followed them into the house. Another man met them in the foyer and communicated with Thorne in low tones. Emma didn't catch what they said, but Agent Thorne turned to her and nodded. Mrs. Solano, your husband is this way. Emma followed her up a set of stairs to a room on the right of the landing. She opened the door and then left her standing there. Emma walked in to find her husband lying on the bed with his eyes closed. His face didn't look right, and there was a sheen to it. She hurried to him and called out his name. Immediately, his eyes opened, and he seemed to smile. It was an almost smile, and it gave her hope. You're finally here, he said weakly. Detective, you don't look so good, Emma said. She touched his forehead, noting the fever. Oh, baby, you're burning up. Don't you have something for it? All I need is to rest, and you. How was your trip? Earl asked as he tried to sit up. His face scrunched up in a grimace as the pain in his shoulder reminded him why it wasn't a good idea. Emma helped him and then hugged him gingerly. He was wearing a shirt and she brushed it aside to assess his wound. It was seeping red. Then she cupped his face and signed him to be quiet. Agent Thorne is going to kill us. I heard her tell the driver, she whispered to him. Earl's eyes seemed to focus instantly. He didn't look helpless any longer. How do you know? He whispered back. She and the driver were talking in the car. They didn't think I understood. I took German in college, she said as she smoothed the side of his face. Earl nodded at her and then kissed her. There was a discreet knock on the door, and Agent Thorne walked in carrying her suitcase. There was a smile on her face that didn't reach her eyes. How is our patient doing? My husband has a fever. Didn't he have any medication when he left the hospital? Oh yes, the trip to come for you took longer than I thought. I picked up his prescription, and I believe he was supposed to get another dose a couple of hours ago. Why don't I brew you both some nice chamomile tea and you can make sure he takes his meds? Sophia said and turned on her heel. For some reason, Sophia's syrupy tone grated on Emma's nerves. The door was left open, and Emma poked her head out and spied another door to the left. She walked over to find that it was a bathroom. She found a basin and some towels. Filling the basin with warm water, she returned to the room and gently went to work on her husband. She had that no-nonsense expression that he didn't challenge. He lay quietly while she bathed his face and upper body. She found bandages in the bedside table drawer. Seems that all his medical needs had been supplied but not used. She pulled on a pair of gloves and peeled off the bloody bandage and cleaned the wound as gently as she could and deftly dressed it. Sophia returned with a pot of tea and Earl's medicine. She told them that she would return with their dinner shortly. Emma had reset her phone to the correct time zone. It was a little past 6 in the evening, and she wasn't hungry, but Earl should eat. He was weak, and if they were going to get out of the situation they were in, he'll need his full strength. It was apparent to her that Earl knew what Sophia was up to, but it was frustrating that he was so calm about it. When Sophia returned with her food, Emma helped her set it on the small table in the corner of the room. Once she left, Emma kicked off her shoes and got comfortable. She helped Earl get up to sit at the table. As they ate, she examined the room. It was pleasant enough, but she realized that it was also their prison. The tea was good, and with something filling in his stomach, Earl was starting to feel better. A half hour later, his fever broke, and he was breathing easier. "Is the room bugged?" she asked him in a stage whisper. Earl shrugged his uninjured shoulder. "If it is, I haven't found it. How did you find me?" "Did you understand what I told you earlier?" she countered. "I'm working on it." "You didn't answer me, Professor." She eyed him bravely. "I spoke with Sir Winthrop after I'd seen the news report. He made the arrangements for me to come here." "So you found the key to my box. What did you find?" Earl's tone was decidedly cold. Emma wasn't going to let him intimidate her. She understood that he might be upset that she opened the box, but at the time, it seemed the only thing she could do, and told him so. "I went through the box too fast for anything to register. How do you think I felt seeing that news report?" Earl's demeanor didn't change. "Sir Winthrop was going to contact you either way. It was protocol. The contents of that box was my private business. You would do well in the future to respect my privacy." The temperature in the room had gone down 1,000 degrees. Emma clasped her hands tightly in her lap and clenched her teeth. For now, she would be civil. If he weren't hurt, she'd gladly reach across that table and slap him silly. Instead, she gathered their plates and stood up. The door was still unlocked, and she carried the tray down the stairs. At the bottom, she called out, and Sophia came out of a side room. "Oh, the kitchen is down the hall to your left, dear. You don't have to wash them. There's a dishwasher for that. If you need anything else, just let me know." And she returned back to the room. Emma placed the dirty dishes in the sink. She took perverse pleasure in not rinsing them. She drank some water and left the kitchen. As she passed the closed door Sophia had disappeared into, she could hear her voice and that of at least 2 men. Sophia sounded agitated. Emma couldn't make out what was being said, but it was clear that Sophia wasn't happy. Emma went back upstairs to the room, to the cold man who was her husband. Earl had changed into clean clothes, she saw. He couldn't button his top, and she didn't offer her help. Instead, she opened her suitcase to pull out a nightgown. It was plain and covered her entire body. She frowned and told him that someone had gone through her things. Earl watched her and found that he'd find her attractive in a burlap sack. "Focus, man," he chided himself. He would never forgive himself if anything happened to her. What was Sir Winthrop thinking? Did he think bringing his wife here would push him into doing something spectacular? Something had to be done, and now he needed to modify his plans to stop Sophia without getting his wife hurt. But he was glad she was here. Emma spoke German of all things. What an absolutely delightful woman she was. But she was mad at him. It would serve her well to stay that way. The angrier, the better. He realized that he was going to need her help. Earl lay on the bed and groaned. The wound in his shoulder was painful. The medicine had taken the edge off, but it was still uncomfortable. He couldn't button the top of his pajamas. Emma was by his side in spite of her anger. "Would you like me to try to get some more pillows?" she asked as she adjusted the pajama top. "No, I don't think Sophia would like you bothering her anymore tonight. Just give me a couple more of those pills and I'll be right as rain," Earl said. "Is it wise to take more so soon? My shoulder hurts and I have to be able to move unhindered when the time comes. Stop arguing with me and hand me those pills." Earl sounded harsh even to his own ears. "I think you should wait, but if you must have it, then you should take only one. Don't want you overdosing yourself." Emma replied, not quite hiding her sarcasm. Earl took the pill from her and swallowed it with leftover tea. He needed to step up his game. Emma didn't seem as angry as before, just annoyed. He watched her get in the bed carefully next to him. She lay down and kept her body rigid. Oh yeah, she was still angry. Good. I asked Agent Thorne if she would take you to the hospital to check you out. She said that it could be arranged. By the way, they are downstairs plotting. I couldn't make out what was being said, but she didn't sound too happy. So I need to be on guard in the morning. Whatever she has planned for us is going to be put into play then. I doubt she feels any sympathy for my injuries, so if we go anywhere, it won't be the hospital. She's the double agent we've been looking for. She's smart and probably suspects that we are close to knowing. So, what are you going to do? Are you in contact with anyone to help us? It was then Emma remembered her new Coach handbag. She jumped out of bed to get it. She pulled out her new slick, razor-thin cell phone. They had service. She bent down and peeked under the bed and found an outlet just behind the headboard. She quickly plugged it in with a satisfied smile. You know we have to keep that hidden. If they find it, we're done for. That was probably what they were looking for when they went through your suitcase, Earl warned her. Yes, I understand that, but now we have a way to make contact. Good, hand it over. I'll try to reach Sir Winthrop. We have a code we've devised. If it hadn't been changed over the years, I'll have to improvise. Emma watched him text his message and waited. When after 10 minutes and he'd not gotten any response, he tried again. This time, he got an immediate response. Earl spent the next 10 minutes going back and forth, and when he was satisfied, he handed it back to her and told her to hide it under the bed. She turned it off before doing so. Earl turned off the lamp and lay down. The room was dark with just a sliver of moon in the night sky to illuminate it. Emma lay next to him and tried to relax. What she was feeling now wasn't important. What was their safety. Sometime in the middle of the night, she awoke. Something had awakened her, but she couldn't figure out what it was. There was a dark figure at the foot of the bed. Someone was in the room watching them. She needed to alert Earl, but if she moved, the figure would know. Earl's hand found hers and squeezed. Oh, good. Their night visitor stood at the foot of the bed and then moved toward the door, and then out of the room, the door closed quietly behind him. Wow, were you holding your breath? Comment what you would have done if you were in that situation. Now let's get back to the story. Very slowly, Earl inched his body to face her, and he whispered close to her ear that he'd been awake the whole time. He told her that there was now a listening device in the room. It was placed high atop the doorframe. Emma inched up on her elbows to look. It was too dark to see anything, but she looked anyway. So what's the plan? She whispered close to his ear. My plan is to find a way to keep you from danger while I deal with Sophia. Sir Winthrop is coming to get you. I asked him to book you into a hotel. I'm not going anywhere without you, so you may as well let Sir Winthrop know. Go to sleep, Emma, Earl said coldly. Emma turned her back to him angrily and tried to go to sleep. Come morning, she would let him know that she wasn't leaving and insist that she could help. She wasn't a total dud. Was this the way he was when he was on assignment? This cold and calculating man was the opposite of the man she knew, and she didn't like him. Dawn was slow in coming, and when it finally did, Emma jumped out of bed. She grabbed a small bag of toiletries and headed for the bathroom. She returned to find Earl sitting up. With his eyes, he communicated for her to be mindful of the bug. She nodded and pointed to the suitcase. I could have sworn that I packed my jeans. With all those trees out there, there's bound to be bugs, and I don't want to get bitten. She rummaged some more and pulled out a pair of jeans. I feel a lot better today, love, and I'd like to get some fresh air. Help me get dressed and we'll go walk the grounds. Earl got out of bed gingerly and told her that he was going to the bathroom, and no, he didn't need her help. She hurried to get dressed, and when Earl returned, he looked like he might fall over. You're in pain again. Let me see if you can take the medicine on an empty stomach. Emma read the instructions on the vial. It says, take with food. Do you think your partner will object if I go downstairs and make breakfast? Sophia is probably still sleeping. Darling, why don't you just make me some toast? I'll join you as soon as I get dressed. Do be quiet, love. The dishes she'd placed in the sink were gone, and she peeked into the cabinets. The kitchen was fully stocked. Quickly and efficiently, she worked. By the time Earl came down, she had eggs, bacon, and toast on the table. On the counter, the coffee was brewing. Just as the couple had finished their breakfast, Sophia Thorne came into the kitchen, sniffing the air appreciatively, and looked to the stove. Good morning, Agent Thorne, Emma said. She was fiercely glad she hadn't prepared breakfast for everyone. Good morning, Mrs. Solano, and to you, Earl. Did you sleep well? Like a log. If it weren't for those painkillers, I don't think I would have slept at all, Earl said as he tossed back two of the very pills he spoke of to the back of his throat. Sophia watched him with interest. So I take it that you don't have a fever this morning? She asked. No, I'm in some pain, but no fever, and I have my Emma here to care for me, Earl said easily. That is good news. I need to get in touch with Sir Winthrop to see if there's any new developments. Is there anything you'd like me to pass on for you? She asked. No, but if you do go out, would you mind getting me a new phone? I lost mine in that fiasco at Parliament, Earl answered. Sophia's eyes twitched, but she quickly adjusted. Any particular brand you want? The reception here is ghastly. Earl pretended to calculate the cost. Never mind then. We still have a job to do, and if he needs us back in town, I'll have to register my wife at my hotel. She can stay there while we work. Honey, I don't think you are well enough to be working yet. Don't you think so, Agent Thorne? Emma asked. Mrs. Solano, I can't speak for Earl. One time he drove 2 hours straight with a poisoned dart in his thigh. When he makes up his mind to do something, there's no changing it, answered Sophia. And please call me Sophia. I guess he would know how he feels. I just thought that, with a gaping wound in his shoulder, that he might want to take it easy for a bit. She got up from the table and went back to their room. She left Earl and Sophia to plot their next move. Emma was angry, but she wasn't so angry that she couldn't think. She entered the room and started straightening it up. She made the bed and opened the window to let fresh air in. She stood there staring out the window. There were trees for miles around, and they were all the same. Then she looked down and spied Sophia's two accomplices. They were smoking and talking in low tones. However, there was no mistaking the ugly-looking gun one of the men pulled out. It was long and sleek. Too long for some reason until Emma realized that it had a silencer piece attached, just like in the movies. So when they shot Earl and her, no one would hear. Seeing that gun brought things back into perspective for her. This was for real. Were they really going to escape death? Did Earl truly have everything under control as he implied? And would Sir Winthrop be able to get help to them in time? She eased away from the window just as Earl entered the room. She went to get the phone and found it gone. She looked in the drawer and even in her suitcase. It was gone. Did you still want to take that walk with me? We could go for it now before you have to go wherever you are going with Sophia, Emma said. She motioned to him that her phone was gone. Earl shook his head. Sophia has to call for instructions first. We can still go. I would rather enjoy it, and you can tell me how everything is going at home. He lifted his shirt to show her the phone tucked in his waistband. Okay, just let me get my sneakers. It's bound to be dusty out there. Earl led the way down and stopped only to let Sophia and the two men gathered in the kitchen eating breakfast that they were going for some fresh air. Sophia warned them not to wander too far, and they left. She told them that the manor was under renovation to be used as a bed and breakfast. When they were far enough away, Earl let go of Emma's hand. He pulled the phone out to make a quick call and tucked it back into his waistband. He didn't look happy. What's wrong? Emma asked. The Prime Minister has scheduled another meeting, and it's happening today. He said that Sophia told him that she was going in to join the security detail and that she didn't think I was well enough to go. I believe she is going to stop the meeting. Isn't the meeting a conference call like the last one? How can she stop it? Sophia has an accomplice in government. That's who did the shooting. We weren't able to identify him, and when he shot me, even though I'd gotten a good look at him, I couldn't identify him. He was in disguise. Sophia is the only link we have to this person. Don't you worry your pretty little head, darling. I have a plan and everything is under control. How is Noah? Emma was getting angrier by the minute. You need to stop talking down to me, Earl. I was going to let it go, but you are starting to piss me off. Now, from what I could understand from your conversation with Sir Winthrop, help will be late in coming to us. So I suggest you allow me to help. I understand the language, remember? So I won't be worrying my pretty little head when I could be an asset. If I was condescending, I apologize. You don't know Sophia, and the men she has here are dangerous. I am injured, so fighting them off is not an option. I only meant to keep you from harm. I can't do much if your safety becomes an issue. Sophia will not stop her plans to consider you. She will use you in every way she can to get the job done. That's the kind of person she is. So you need to let me do this my way, Earl replied. That's right, my love, get angry, he thought. Is that what attracted you to her in the first place? This quality to get the job done? I'll let you in on a little secret 007. You are at a disadvantage here. You may think you can outthink her, but you are mistaken. She is a woman and so am I. That's one thing she and I have in common and the other is you. What's that supposed to mean? I know everything about Sophia. I dated her for 3 years. I know her, Earl said confidently. Emma looked at him and shrugged. Then I guess you know that she is still in love with you, she said. And I think we're being watched. They may not be able to hear what we are saying, but they can see. In that case, let's give them a show, Earl replied. He closed the space between them and using his good arm, pulled her close. Emma tried to push him away. What are you doing? This is not what she needs to see. I think it would be better for her to see us at odds. Then she might think she has a chance with you. But I want to kiss you. I've missed you, and I need to feel you in my arms. Earl kissed her. He put everything in that kiss, and she melted. When the kiss ended, he hugged her close. She's going to kill us for sure, Emma said in his ear. Don't doubt me, love. I know exactly what I'm doing. Emma pushed away from him. No, you don't. I'm going back to the house. If there's a long-range rifle aimed at us, one of us is going to live. And with that, she walked away from him and headed back toward the house. She walked into the house almost bumping into Sophia. She had a smile on her face. Where is your husband? She asked. He's coming. Emma replied and brushed past her to the stairs. Sophia's smile widened when she heard Emma's last remark. It sounded something like arrogant bastard. So that kiss hadn't meant anything to the woman. It was clear that they'd argued, and she knew from experience how arrogant Earl can be. He used to use that same tactic on her too. Gunther, Sophia called out. Es ist Mittag. Gunther appeared beside her to pick up the 2 bags Sophia had packed and left with them. He and another man were to wait for her in town. It was going to be a pleasure to deal with this part of the job. She loved tying up loose ends. Briefly, she thought about her heartache all those years ago, how Earl had thrown her away. She had to continue as if she wasn't hurt or dumped. In a short while, all of that would be resolved. Earl finally reached the manor and Sophia met him at the entrance. He realized that she was waiting for him. He schooled his features and asked her if she was able to reach Sir Winthrop. She said Sir Winthrop told them to stay put until he knew more. She then asked him if he would look at some equipment in the garage. Earl nodded and braced himself. As soon as they entered the garage, the lights went out. Something hard struck him in the back of his head. Because he knew it was coming, he ducked slightly to avoid the full impact. He feigned unconsciousness and allowed his attacker to drag him further into the garage. Gunther sat him in a chair and tied him up. For good measure, he plunged a syringe full of a sedative, guaranteed to keep him incapacitated. It was the same drug they'd used on him when they took him from the hospital. Sophia motioned for him to go for Emma. Emma had heard Sophia when she reached the top of the stairs. She said that it was time. Time for what? She needed to warn Earl, but she didn't know how. She heard more than saw Earl fall when Gunther attacked him. She ran into the room and sat down on the bed, and he was coming for her. She raised alarmed eyes to his face when he entered the room. He was holding a gun. You come now, he said in a heavily accented English. Emma walked ahead of him into the garage. Earl was sitting in a chair. He was tied up and slumped over. She ran to him, deftly feeling for the phone in his waistband. It was still there. She marveled that it was turned on and on record mode. She left it. She pretended that she was checking his wound when Sophia roughly pulled her away from him. Sophia pushed her hard against the opposite wall. Listen, you little bitch. I don't have much time for games, so if you don't want me to shoot you right now, stand there and be quiet. Then she walked over to where Earl was sitting at and grabbed a handful of his hair to lift his head up. I know you can hear me, Earl. So open your eyes now and listen to what I have to say. When Earl hadn't complied, Sophia told him that if he didn't open his eyes, that she was going to shoot Emma. That did the trick. Good. I really am sorry that it has come to this. My friends have already gone ahead to finish up in London. I wanted to give you a chance to get on board. I know you missed the action, Earl. I know you were bored out of your mind playing it safe, working as a cop. You couldn't have been happy and then getting married. Well, that was the best laugh I've had in ages. Why did you do that for? Emma stayed where she was, but her blood was boiling. Earl sat in that chair looking mildly uncomfortable. His eyes were glassy. Was he in pain? Blood was seeping through his bandages. In the scuffle with Gunther, he had re-injured his shoulder and opened the wound. Well, that was just great. Emma was right, and he'd acknowledge it too late. Sophia did still have feelings for him. Just before he had reached the manor, he turned on the record app on the phone. It was bad enough that Gunther probably cracked his skull, but why did they have to drug him? Now, love, you know that I'd been trying to change my lifestyle. It got old doing things the Bureau way, and you were unhappy as well. All those rules and regulations were dragging us down. I went to America to find something new. Granted, getting married wasn't in my plans, but Emma's a good sort. Oh, come off it, Earl. I watched you with her earlier. You love her, and even though she is not too thrilled with you right now, I can tell that she loves you too. I was going to give you a chance to live the way we used to, the way that made us feel alive. But I can't forgive you leaving me, nor for marrying. And most assuredly, you would have kept up the manhunt and found me eventually. That's the sort you are, and I can't have that. I will miss you, darling. We had a fine time, didn't we? Okay, can we stop right here and digest this? How many of you think Sophia is off the deep end? Comment below what you do now. Let's get back to it. Emma looked around the garage. It was bare. There wasn't anything she could use as a weapon. They drugged Earl, and there wasn't anything he could do either. But Emma did have one thing, her brain. Okay, I've heard enough. I know you told me to stand here and be quiet, but it seems to me that you want to reminisce about old times, and I'm feeling left out. Since you plan on killing me too, I think it is only fair that I should join in on this conversation. Would you like to know what I think? I think that Earl was right in going to America. If you are the only example of women here, then it was a lucky thing he found me. I know he's happy and has no regrets in leaving you behind. Sophia turned incredulous eyes to her. What did you say? She hissed at Emma. I think Earl needs to make up his mind right now who he wants. You or me. I personally think that he left you because you weren't woman enough for him. You see, what most black men fail to understand is that black women are what make them strong, Emma said in a challenge. Sophia's face transformed into a collage of different levels of rage. She was red from the neck up, and she began to wave the gun she'd previously held at her side. Now it was pointed at Emma, and Emma feared that she might have gone too far. Earl's body wouldn't obey him. He only imagined that he was straining against the cord holding him hostage. Sophia was on the brink of losing control. He watched as she turned from him to his wife. You think you know everything, don't you? I don't have time to educate you, but I've got a perfectly splendid idea. I think you'll love this, darling, Sophia said with a wicked gleam in her eyes. I've got a proposition for you both. Only one of you will die today. I haven't had a good workout in a long time, and well, your wife's big mouth has sparked a need in me. She will fight for her life. What on earth are you saying? Earl asked, finding his voice. For the first time since this whole ordeal began, he'd not been afraid, but now he was. Yeah, what are you saying? Asked Emma. Sophia started laughing. She laughed until tears streaked down her face. What I'm saying is this. Your wife and I will fight. If I win, she gets to live, and only you will die. I'll have to incapacitate her to give me enough time to get away. But if she wins, will you both live? Isn't that a positively lovely idea? Sophia asked, grinning serenely. No! Earl shouted, and with adrenaline coursing through his veins, he strained against the cord keeping him bound. Oh, don't be a party pooper, admonished Sophia. She took off her jacket and slipped the gun into the pocket. Then she walked over to Earl and draped it across his lap. She leaned over to place a lingering kiss on his lips. Hold this for me, darling. Then she turned to face Emma, who stood there dumbfounded. This is your chance to put your money where your mouth is, as you Americans say. She beckoned to Emma. Emma squared her shoulders and walked over to Earl. I hope you appreciate this. You're going to owe me big time. White-hot pain assaulted Emma's scalp as Sophia grabbed her by the hair. She pulled Emma to face her. When I'm through with you, I'm going to have a little fun with Earl. There's nothing he likes more than a quickie after a fight. I think you're mistaken. I'll be enjoying that pleasure, Emma replied tauntingly. God help her, but she hated that woman right now. Earl tried to cord around his chest and frowned. Not only did they tie him up, drugged him, but they also handcuffed him. So even if he were to break the cord, he couldn't break the cuffs. He worried for Emma and prayed that Sir Winthrop came in time. Sophia was much stronger than Emma. He'd been controlling his breathing to slow down the drug, but it was getting the best of him now. Emma wiped at the corner of her mouth. She didn't have to look to know that it was bleeding. Sophia hit harder than she expected, and she definitely had more experience. Her face hurt, but she wasn't going to back down yet. She survived Raphael. She could survive Sophia. She had to. There was no way she was going to raise Noah without Earl. The women circled each other, and Sophia struck again. Emma barely dodged the fist aimed at her face. She countered with a punch to Sophia's midsection and gloried that it connected. The surprise on Sophia's face was better than the hot bath she planned on taking after this was over. She had to backpedal quickly when Sophia kicked at her. It was a good thing she'd worn her sneakers. The women fought and taunted each other. Emma was barely holding her own, but she was doing her best to keep up. When after a particularly harsh blow to her midsection, Emma had dropped to her knees and Sophia stepped back to laugh. "Had enough?" Sophia asked confidently. Emma looked up. Her body was aching in places she didn't know could hurt, but she shook her head. "Not yet. I miscalculated your strength, but I'm in this for the long haul." She stood up and quickly sidestepped to block the kick aimed at her head with her left forearm. Then she spun to the right to grab Sophia's arm and swung her into the concrete wall while her leg was still in the air. Sophia hit the wall with a loud thwack. When she faced Emma once more, there was blood on her face. Her nose was bleeding. She grunted and came at Emma running, full of rage. Emma met her with a flying kick, but Sophia ducked just in time. Emma tried again just as her opponent was upright, and this time it connected. Earl, who had just regained his ability to move and to stay awake, heard the crack of Sophia's jaw. He watched the surprised expression on her face that it even happened at all. How had she done that? And when had she gotten so good? He was still processing those questions when Emma limped to him. Her lips were swollen, but her eyes sparkled. "Perhaps you should have taken the assignment. That was bloody brilliant," Earl exclaimed. "Perhaps I should. You didn't happen to see where she put the keys, did you?" Emma asked as she walked around him to find that he was handcuffed. Earl's features turned to stone. "Check her pockets." He watched Emma go through the jacket Sophia had laid in his lap. She found the keys and gingerly unlocked it. She noted the raw skin from him trying to get free and said nothing. Earl stood up and rubbed his wrists. He looked past Emma to the woman lying on the ground. Emma looked too. "What are you going to do with her?" she asked. Earl didn't answer. He walked over to the unconscious woman and cuffed her with the same cuffs that had held him captive. Then he went outside. Emma followed slowly, feeling the adrenaline ebbing away. Her legs wobbled and she slid to her knees. She had a pounding headache and the pain in her body intensified. She watched Earl pick up the still unconscious woman and turned to her. "Time to go, Emma. I found her car." Slowly, Emma stood up and followed him outside. Earl did a quick search of Sophia's body and came away with a small gun from a holster on her right thigh. She climbed into the front seat and Earl got behind the wheel. Earl started the car and they were off. He didn't look at her when he spoke. "I'm taking Sophia to headquarters and then I'm getting you a flight home. I must see this through to the end." "I'm not going home without you, Earl. Once news of Sophia's capture is known, you'll be a target," Emma said flatly. "And if I'm a target, what will you be?" "I don't want my parents raising my son, Emma. Look, there's not much more left to do here. Sophia's contacts are bound to try to get in touch with her, and our people will be ready and waiting. A few days at the most, and then I'll join you at home." "No, it's not up to you," Emma said adamantly. "Oh, for heaven's sake," Sophia growled from the back seat. Emma looked at her and then away. She looked a sight. The side of her face was swollen and she was drooling. "You've broken my nose. There won't be a safe place for you anywhere," she threatened with a slur. "Where are you taking me?" "I'm taking you back to face the consequences. I'm going to make sure that you and your accomplices go away for a very long time," Earl assured her. They'd been driving for about 30 minutes before Earl realized that they were being followed. He was familiar enough with the countryside to take little detours here and there, just to confirm. They were just passing through Brentwood, almost home free. Emma mustn't know the danger they were in, he thought to himself. His eyes strayed to the back and caught Sophia's eyes. Her eyes told him that she knew too. Detective, I don't know if you've noticed, but we are being followed, Emma said, turning slightly to face him. She realized that he was already aware. How many of you are marveling at Emma right now? If this story is grabbing you with both fists, subscribe, like, and share. Now let's get back to the story. You know, in the months since the kidnappings, I've taken steps to not become a victim. I refuse to be helpless, so stop trying to keep me in the dark. If you have a plan, I suggest you put it into play now, she continued. Earl smiled and nodded at her. All right, love, I need you to hold on, and if Sophia tries anything, knock her out. Emma turned to the woman and smiled brightly at her. Gladly. Earl's careful driving became more aggressive. He drove through side streets, staying off main roads, but the car following stayed behind him steadily. Suddenly, something whizzed past Emma's head to shatter both the windshield in front of them and the back. It startled Earl, and the car swerved dangerously. Are you hurt? He asked Emma. Emma shook her head and quickly looked to the back to check on Sophia. She wasn't hurt either. Earl drove faster as two other cars joined the chase. He decided that he wasn't going to play their game any longer. He wouldn't allow them to herd them into a trap. That's what they were doing. Staying on the main road was their best bet. Another 20 minutes of furious driving, and Earl could see the outskirts of London. He had to hold on until he could hand things over to the help he knew was coming to meet them. It was getting harder to focus. There had been another bullet, and he hadn't been so lucky. It had gone through the seat and lodged just under the previous wound. Just when he thought he wouldn't make it, he saw the flashing lights ahead. Emma wasn't surprised that Earl slumped over to land in her lap. She knew he'd been hit because he hadn't let on that it happened. He couldn't hide the flow of blood congealing on the seat between them. It unnerved her when Sophia screamed. She quickly grabbed the wheel to steer to keep from crashing into oncoming traffic. Earl's foot was hard on the pedal, but she was finally able to lift his leg. She braced herself as the car crashed into the side of the divider to a stop. It was hours before Emma had a chance to think straight, but now sitting up in a hospital bed, she had the time. She had sustained some injuries from the fight with Sophia and the crash. Luckily, nothing was broken, but she hurt everywhere. It was a miracle that Earl's lung hadn't been punctured. The doctor explained that because the bullet had gone through the front seat first, the impact was less, saving him from serious injury, like getting shot, was less so. He was recovering nicely, and he was sedated because of the racket he was making about needing to protect his wife. Mrs. Solano, it is a pleasure to finally meet you. Your husband has told me of all you've done. Well done, my dear, Sir Winthrop said. He smiled dotingly at Emma. I suppose a full report will have to wait until you are both recovered. I took the liberty of contacting your family to assure them that you are both doing well. I've moved you to a suite at the hotel. He left then, just as quietly as he came. Well, that's it for now. There is more to the story, but I think stopping here is best. Please comment if you enjoyed the story and what you think of it. I promise to read everyone. For those of you who are new to the channel, please go back to the beginning to experience the full scope of this wonderful couple, and then subscribe, like, and share. Bye for now.